Hi, everybody, and welcome to another segment of the Checkpoint Tech Happy Hour. We are happy whatever day it is that you happen to be watching us on. So welcome. I am Bob Cruz.
Matt Kubal.
And we are very excited to have you join us today. So Matt, what are we going to be talking about today? Challenges of test automation, right?
Yes.
And that, by the way, that's why I have, Matt, that's why I have my Captain Mercury out.
Ah, yes.
So everybody check this out, Captain Mercury. I got that, Matt, when I was certified as an instructor with Mercury Interactive with Windrunner back in 1998. So
I was 15.
thank you for that, Matt. Thank you. And on that,
I was just entering high school.
All right, enough about
Yeah.
how old you were, because that reminds me of how old I am now.
Yeah.
But what are you drinking today, Matt?
Oh, I think we've got a Tampa beer theme here today. I'm drinking Florida Man from Cigar City.
Oh,
which
all
is
right.
a double India Pale Ale. Wow, I now regret choosing this.
Okay.
I'll
And
drink it though, because I'm that kind of guy.
There you go. And I'm
What do you
drinking Reef Donkey from Tampa Bay Brewing Company. Have you ever had the bison burger there?
I have.
It is pretty
Delicious.
tasty.
Yeah.
Pretty tasty. So on test automation challenges, Matt. So you start off. What's one that you tend to see quite a bit of things companies are struggling with?
Well, I mean, picking a tool is the first thing. You get a lot of companies who, they might dabble in automation a little bit here or there. They don't necessarily know what they're doing. They're not real settled on a tool. So picking a tool is probably the biggest initial hurdle to get over. And you have to consider, a few things like your budget, first of all. Like, are they going to allot you any money for your automation? If not, well, you're pretty much stuck with Selenium, right?
Right.
And there are quite a few people doing that and are successful with WebDriver, especially if their app is just web-based, which a lot of people are now. So you can use WebDriver for a lot of that. I'm sure there are some challenges with specific types of applications. I don't have a lot of experience with it, but that's the free route. The problem is you don't get any support. So your support is the internet, which is great for a lot of things. And there's a million YouTube videos on how to do everything, but there's no one you can log a ticket with, really, other than asking strangers for help.
Right.
So if you don't have a lot of experience with it, you might spend a lot of time Googling for help on the internet.
Right, and you've got to hope in that situation that it's a very popular open source tool.
Yeah.
Because the more popular it is, the more information there will be out there that has been provided by users out in the world.
Yeah. And there are a lot of companies out there now that are layering their own solution on to WebDriver, or at least it appears that way. And if you ask them what their tool is based on, they will admit that it's WebDriver. So in that case, you might get some support, and it's probably a lot cheaper. So you could look at something like that. So budget's your first consideration, and then you need to look at technology. So what tool will support your application? So you can't use WebDriver if your application is a client on the computer, a fat client or thin client, whatever it is. If it's not in a WebDriver, or if it's not in a web browser, you can't use the WebDriver for it. So at that point, you have to look at other tools. If your tool is containerized, like something that pops up in Citrix that's just a bitmap that you're essentially getting, then you need to look at sort of image-based stuff. So like Eggplant or even Micro Focus has some image-based capabilities. But then if you have to consider if you are going to have mobile testing. So do you want to do device farm? You want to do emulation, stuff like that. There are all sorts of different tools that have different capabilities with regard to these things, and you have to take those things into consideration when you do that.
That's a great point. I mean, and some other things in that regard that you have to consider is the skill set, the aptitude of your existing team, because there's some automation solutions such as Selenium. It requires more programming skill than a lot of the other solutions out there. So if your testers, those who will test, and they may be developers, but if your testers do not have that programming skill or experience, Selenium may be more challenging for them.
Oh, definitely.
Whereas, if you've got a solution like Rapise by Inflectra or UFT by Microfocus, then that it doesn't eliminate it totally when you get into the more complex features of test automation, but it does minimize it considerably.
Right.
So great point.
Right, and that's a point I had, was resources specifically, and that does tie into budget, right? When you're picking a tool, you can't just think of how much does the tool cost. You have to think, how much do the resources cost to use it?
Right.
So for Selenium, tool is free. The
Yep.
people can be very expensive. There are tools that a lot of people have experience on, like UFT type tool, where you can find more resources for that. But if you don't already have these people on staff, or they're not part of your team, either you're going to have to train people that
Right.
exist on your team, or you're going to have to go out and find resources. So you have to be prepared to also pay for that training and get people up to speed on the tool.
Great point. Great point. And when it comes to the selection of a solution, I'll start off with one of the challenges I thought of and I encounter quite a bit. And it ties in with what you just mentioned. It has to do with the selection of a functional test automation solution. It amazes me at the number of organizations that do not, at the very least, do an evaluation of the solution for a certain period of time, 2 or 3 weeks,
Yeah.
or better yet, a proof of concept. So, one of the things you want to do is make sure you list the requirements that you need to have met, that you must have met. Those must-haves and the nice-to-haves, and start your proof of concept or your evaluation with that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think it's important to remember when you're searching for a tool that all the salespeople are just going to say yes to you, right? Like, it doesn't matter what the technology is or what. They're always going to say, yes, absolutely, we can do that. So it is absolutely important to get the application in place in your system and make sure it actually sees objects or
Right.
can do what you want it to do. They're going to tell you can record and play back. Try that. Try hitting the record button and then playing it back afterward and watch it explode. And then go ask the person who sold you on that, say, why isn't this working?
Challenge it. Salespeople at Checkpoint Technologies will
They
do
would
that
never lie
on
to
you.
you. No.
But no, that's a very good point.
I mean more marketing,
Yes.
I suppose, because marketing is always, it's a lot of fluff.
You have to be careful. You have to be careful. So we named 2. What other challenge would you mention?
Let's see, framework, right? So you got to decide how you're going to approach automation. You can't just have everybody doing their own thing. So naming conventions, what you're going to write functions for, or reusable actions, stuff like that. Maybe how you want to modularize the application. If
Yep.
you want to write functions or modules for specific parts and just sort of piece them together, be able to call them.
Right. Will it be action word, keyword?
Yeah.
Yeah.
How you want to
absolutely.
drive it, where you're going to get data. And data is a big consideration too. So I think that's the biggest challenge, is actually coming up with good test data, especially in these larger systems like healthcare systems, stuff like that. You generally need some, like a patient in a certain state in order to even run your test. So is your test going to create the patient and create the data and put them in that exact state before the test runs? Or are you going to have somebody press reset on a database somewhere? Or are you going to inject the data at the time of the test run? That's a big consideration. I think it's one of the things that's most overlooked, because people get in there and they say, oh great, look, I've made this test. And then they're like, okay, well, run it again. Well, I can't run it again. The data won't work again. Okay.
Yeah.
So you gotta either figure out a way to go backwards or figure out a way to make your test work no matter where your data exists.
Right. So I want to mention something to both of those, the framework and then the test data. On the framework, one of the things that you just need to, frameworks are great if they're necessary in your organization. Frameworks are great. But it's important to remember, from a budget, scheduling, time point of view, that you're also going to have to train your testers on how to use the framework. So the advantage of a framework is that you're going to more or less separate your automation experts from your testers. Your testers might be experts on the business and the business applications, but they don't know the automation solution, and that's fine.
Yeah.
But you're going to have to teach them how to use the framework.
Right.
On test data, that was an excellent point. And I've seen that quite often when you're talking about performance testing. Because performance testing, when you want to really stress out the system, give it a load, you may have to come up with 10,000, 20,000 different sets of test records, data records.
Yeah.
Yep. So absolutely.
Yeah. Anything you got?
So the other thing, I would say is the whole expectation that you're going to automate 100% of your test cases. If you're honestly looking at all of your test cases, all of them, the usability, everything, then automating 100% is unrealistic.
Yeah.
Lower that down. How much? I don't know. I would need to take a look at your test cases and do a bit of an assessment.
Yeah.
But if you say, can I automate 100% of those test cases that are automatable, then the answer is yes. You should be able to. So that's something that I see quite often.
Yeah, I've seen automation projects fail. I know you have too, because managers expected 100% of everything to be done, and we got to the end, and it was about 95% done, and the most complex workflow just wouldn't work because it was too long with too many branching paths, and the manager said, scrap it all. And we'd spent hundreds and hundreds of hours.
Absolutely.
Hundreds of hours. For nothing.
Yeah.
For nothing, because we couldn't make it to 100%. There are lots of challenges with getting management on board with automating most of it, but not all of it, and accepting the fact that you're going to buy an automation solution, but you're still going to run manual tests.
Right. Absolutely. So we could easily, and if you all remember from the intro segment that we did, Matt and I promised we're going to keep this at 15 minutes. We want to do our best not to go over. We could easily extend this out to an hour because Matt and I mean, in my 35-year career, I've consulted for, about 240 different companies. So we could go over a lot of challenges, but we're going to wrap it up there. So the big thing we want to remind everybody of, though, is give us your comments, give us some feedback. We would love to hear about the different topics to include, if there are some experts in joining us that you'd love to hear. We'll do our best to get them on with us, even if it's remote.
I'd like to hear about other people's challenges, or comments on these challenges, or how they dealt with them.
Absolutely. Oh, that's a great point. I hope you all got that. So with that, we're going to wrap things up. Cheers. And remember, Bob Cruz, Matt Kubal, Checkpoint Technologies, make testing fun.
Cheers.
Hey everybody, we're back very quickly because Matt and I realized we forgot to mention something important. If you message us, give us your email address, we are more than happy to send you a list of considerations and questions that you want to think about when you are evaluating and selecting an automation solution. And we'll also send you some information on how to assess your environment, your team, your testing project, to also help you figure out what is the best solution for you and your organization.
Yep.
So again, thanks.
Yep. Email address will be in the description below the video.
There you go.
There.
Yes, down there. And again, give us your feedback. Let us know what topics you want to hear. Thanks, everyone. Have a great day. And again, make testing fun.
Cheers again.